At first, I'm being over to review this. I am not gonna lie, I'm underestimating this IM because this is one of the least well-known IM from HBB collaboration. So hello and welcome to Aftersound review, and this is my review for 3 HBB Kai that actually blows my mind because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't suspect that I could really like this IM and I could hear them for hours during my listening session. And just like usual, I'll break down this review from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. And by the way, this IM is using only a single dynamic driver and costs around $100. I would say that this IM has a really flashy aesthetic. You could see that it has this golden color on the housing with this very bright blue that somehow actually it looks good, but it's just really flashy for me. Even the connector, the pin connector here is using golden color, and they do have a little kind of weight so they don't feel like a cheap IM, but yeah, they're just really flashy and they're using 2-point connectors, and the cable itself is really flexible. I like it. It's really flexible and non-microphonic, but even the jack is all golden color, so it is a really flashy IM. In terms of ergonomic, I would say that, yeah, it's just nice. I have nothing to complain about. They just fit nicely into my ears, even though yeah, they're kind of flashy, but the fit is really nice. I could wear them for hours, and the cable itself is just feels really nice. It doesn't tangle, it's not microphonic, and it's also very flexible and light. Now let's talk about the frequency response of this IM. That it is apparent that this IM has a warm tonality on it. It has elevated bass, and after that it has early rise in the mid-range area, in ear gain area around 2K at peaks, and after that it is mostly rolled off. So you would say that from the frequency response alone, this IM could be categorized as warm or maybe a bit dark for some, but let me tell you that this kind of IM is definitely made for specific purpose, and it's done beautifully. Low frequency sounds really full and thumping with a lot of mid-bass punch. So it is, even though the frequency response alone could reach a sub-bass, so it's a well extended bass, but mostly in my music I feel more of a mid-bassy kind of punch and thickness, but it's a well-tuned one. So even though it has this kind of thickness, this kind of fullness in punch, but it doesn't bleed. It strangely doesn't bleed, even though it has a lot of bass and somehow mid-range is warm, but I don't really find bleed in the bass area, so it's somehow really well controlled with good speed also. But yeah, it's not for metal music or rock music, it's just for using pops or EDMs, even though it has such a fullness in its bass, but it doesn't bleed and somehow well separated from its also thick mid-range. Well, the mid-range is really full and somehow satisfying, because no matter what kind of music I play through them, this IM could give this very lush, thick mid-range, but somehow it doesn't go too dark or too masked by the bass. It's just a really well done full mid-range kind of tuning. So no matter what kind of music I play at them, whether it's male or female vocal, those sounds thick, full of emotion, and also quite forward, and the articulation is also good. So I don't know what happened with this IM, but despite of its thickness, you could really hear the tones and notes are really well defined here. It's just thick. Well, subjectively, I'm not saying that this is ideal for my preference for female vocals, but using them for hours, I couldn't get any fatigue, and I could simply just listen to them for hours because how lush, smooth, and musical the mid-range is. Hearing piano and guitar also sounds really smooth and full-bodied. Now yeah, for the treble area, as expected, this will be not for you who loves treble. It's definitely smooth and on almost a dark side because it's really well smooth, but hearings like cymbals feels more like instead of so it does like some sparkle on the upper frequencies, and yes, it does sound too smooth and lacking some bites when you're hearing Vivaldi's Four Seasons, whether it's winter, summer, or spring. It simply lacks airiness and openness in the treble section. So it's definitely not the strongest point of this IM. Even I would say that the treble is the main weakness for this IM. Now for the technical, as expected with this kind of thickness, it doesn't have a lot of resolution and details, especially on the higher notes. But the thing is, it is somehow have a good separation between bass and mid-range. So no matter what kind of music I throw at them, whether it's EDMs or some pop music or some vocals music with a lot of bass, I could definitely hear, even though the bass is big, the vocal is thick, I could feel the separation there. And for me, that's kind of special because this IM is really thick, but it's separated nicely, and it's for $100. I think there's no other IM that have this kind of lush and thickness or fullness in the sound, but still well separated like this. But yeah, I would say it sounds less clear if you compare them with the likes of Aria or Untitled S. But the separation, even though I give this IM a lot of bass, I could hear that is a separation between the bass and mid-range. And for me, that says something about this IM. It definitely has something to do, I think, with the driver quality, because it's nicely separated, even though it sounds really thick. Now, how do they are compared with another bassy IM? Because I'm not gonna compare them with another neutral or bright IM, because this is not definitely made not for that purpose. Now comparing them with the KKZ HBB Con, I would say that the KKZ HBB Con has more sub-bassy presentation, making it sounds, even though the bass is not as full sounding as this 3X HBB Kai, but the KKZ HBB Con has more sub-bass rumble on them. So it's more sub-bassy, while this IM is more mid-bassy. That's kind of different bass. If you were asking me about the fullness of sound, the fullness of the bass, yeah, this 3X HBB Kai sounds definitely more full in the bass section. But the KKZ HBB Con has a thin mid-range that will favor more of a female vocal, but that somehow it's not really smooth and not really lush in terms of vocal texture. But in this 3HBB Kai, the vocal is still smooth, it's still lush, it's still somehow it's really addicting for me. But again, because of the KKZ HBB Con has that kind of contrast between the sub bass and upper mid range, it sounds more separated. But if I have to say which one can I listen longer, it is definitely this 3X HBB Kai. Now again, comparing them with another bassy IM like the 7Hz Legato. Well, 7Hz Legato and also this 3HBB Kai both have fullness in their mid-bass section. But somehow the texture, I feel more textured bass from this 3X HBB Kai. I don't know why is that happen again. I think that's because of the quality of the driver alone. And also the mid-range is much thicker and more lush with this 3X HBB Kai. But the treble is somehow more sparkling in the 7Hz Legato, giving a better sense of air. And again, it's more separated, but it's also comparably kind of harsh. Now, this last comparison will not be a really fair comparison, because I'm gonna compare them with this KKZ HBB. This KKZ HBB, not KKZ HBB Con. Because the thing is, this IM, how it sounds and what they do to me, it just really reminds me of the original KKZ HBB. Both of them has this kind of fullness in their mid-bass and also fullness in the mid-range, but it is clear that this IM is much more cleaner in sound. It's much more better separated. The bass, even though both have this kind of fullness, but it's definitely tighter and faster in this 3HBB Con, and also the vocal texture is smoother. It is safe to say that this IM is like for those who like the KKZ HBB and have more money to spend, but they want a relatively similar signature with maybe less treble extension, but still really good sounding, lush, full kind of sound. I would say that 3HBB Kai is definitely the one for you. So that's all I could say about this IM. Thank you for watching, and this is my final score for its tonality and also technical. See you next time. Bye bye.